probably stupid for doing this, but I'm going to mouth off on a few things. I don't like doing videos. I don't like the sound of my voice. Oh well. And I'm trying to multitask, drive, and do this video. Let's see how bad this turns out. I'm not going to talk about that ranch ordeal in Oregon. Don't know enough about it. It's kind of like a lot of things. There seems to be, you read 5 different news reports and you get 6 different stories. So I don't really know what's going on there, so I'm not going to comment on it. I want to address the executive orders that concerning gun control, whatever you want to call it. It's bullcrap. I'm being nice, but it is. You know, they're trying to say, oh, this will help cut down gun violence. It's the same with saying if you're on the no-fly registry, you can't own a gun, but there hasn't been a single instance of where that would have prevented someone from purchasing the gun they used, if they even purchased it. So for starters, wanting to close the loopholes and everything, like ordering a gun online or at a gun show. I've bought guns online, and they all had to be sent to a FFL licensed dealer who did the background check. And I've talked to people that got guns from gun shows, and they had to do a background check. I think what it is individual sales. So does this mean every single person who sells a gun has to be registered, or do they have to go through an FFL or get an FFL themselves? I don't know. That hasn't been seen yet. Ultimately, I don't think it would work anyway, because if you look overwhelmingly, the instances where they buy guns, the system failed. I think, wasn't it the Gabby Giffords thing, the dealer didn't do the background check or something like that? I know there was something about that, where there was a dealer in the area hadn't been doing background checks or something. I've slept since then, but I think that was the case. I know there's supposed to be 3 gun limit in 6 months, I think it is, or long gun limit in 6 months, or you get special scrutiny or something like that. I vaguely remember this from an FFL training course I attended. I served as a guide for a guy I know who had to drive like 2 miles to get here to do the course, and he didn't know the area, so I did this was a few winters back, and it was like 30 degrees snowing, and I didn't want to sit in the car, so I just sat in, tagged along. But I think it was a 3 gun limit, and you get special scrutiny or something like that. So that would so there should have been red flags with what they call the Batman shooting. Sandy Hook, whether you believe the official narrative or not, or whether you even though the official narratives, there's so many versions, wouldn't have been affected, because if the official narrative is he killed his mom, got in the safe, and stole her guns she purchased legally. So that wouldn't have done anything. And then you look at South Carolina, he purchased it legally because the background system failed to do its job. And there's been other instances like that. I think, wasn't there a shooting in New York right after the Sandy Hook issue, where it was more or less the same thing? So, can't readily say that more backgrounds would have helped, because these people are getting them from the dealers and still not having an issue. So, going around and saying, oh, well, we need more background checks, ain't going to work really that well. There seems to be a flaw in the background check system. I just hope they're not using the same background checks on the people coming in from Syria. Next thing, they mentioned that really stuck out was mental health. Thank the Lord, we need to focus more on mental health and put more money in that area. So in that, I cannot find fault. I also think that there needs to be some more focus on how we're raising kids. I think that's a big issue we're having is the little hellions we're raising. I mean, I'll say this because, like, taking for example a trip to Walmart I did. I was standing there minding my own business. I saw some movement out of the corner of my eye as a woman pushed a buggy with what appeared to be a 4-year-old kid, little girl hanging off the front of it. And I just so happened to look just in time to see her just about haul off and kick me. I jumped back, looked up, and the mom was standing there glaring at me like, how dare me to say something about her darling precious little she-devil of a kid who almost kicked me in the middle of the whatever aisle I was in at Walmart. So yeah, I think there's more going on than just mental health. I think there's issue with the way kids are being raised in general, and yeah. I will say I'm not a huge fan of the whole doctors reporting potential mental illness to the government, which seemed to be something they said they were going to rework the health laws, and that gets into hairy stuff like HIPAA and all that stuff. I don't agree with it because, one, I think doctor-patient confidentiality is just that, unless they feel like you are an imminent threat to yourself or someone else, and that's a different story. I think all that's going to do is backfire, because you're in one breath he said something about we need to focus more on mental health, and then in another breath, but the mental health should be reported to the government. What's going to wind up happening is you're going to have people that own guns or wants to own guns, or has guns and wants to own more, like me, who might have a little anxiety or depression because it happens. Life happens. Life sucks. So, they might, knowing that the doctor may report them to the government come in and steal their guns, that can be discouraging. And instead of encouraging someone to get mental health that they need, it might actually wind up discouraging someone who needs it just because. And another thing I was wanting to point out, depending on what they're wanting to go with, the first part about the gun registry, or, well, not gun registry, but the licenses if you're, quote, in the business of buying and selling guns. If that gets into the individual owner, how are they really going to be able to track the sale of the guns? That gets into the whole federal gun registry and all that stuff, which is a no-no in my book. Quite frankly, it's none of the government's business what I own, because all the guns I can legally own are just that, legal. It's none of their business. I'm not going out buying explosives. You have to have an FFL, Class 2 or Class 3 FFL. I think it's Class 3. Class 2 is, manufacturer. I think it's Class 3 to buy fully automatic stuff, which I'd love to have, but one, I can't afford it, thanks to the Firearm Act, I think signed in 82 or 83 by Reagan, I think it was. And two, yeah, I'm not going through the FFL stuff, because you do that and all of a sudden you have to keep all these extra registries and logs and stuff, and for so long, of every gun you own, and every gun you sell, yada, yada, yada. And ATF can come in, actually BATFE now. I like to refer to them as the Bastards Against Tobacco, Firearm, and Explosives. That's just me. But they can come in and they can, look at what you got, what you don't have, and then they can start throw you in jail, seize assets, all that junk, which I don't readily agree with. That's just me. So you get in a lot of hairy stuff there. I mean, it's like they're making you jump through hurdles to get stuff that is a constitutional right. Almost like they're wanting to regulate a right, and that's wrong, because governments in and of themselves cannot grant you a right. They cannot regulate a right. When any government thinks they grant rights or they can regulate rights, can take a right away. And any government that goes around taking rights away from the people is not a government of the people. So yeah, it's a little bit longer than I'd like to have gotten, and I know I've rambled and jumped around a little bit, but I'm just saying, overall, I think it was BS. And that's putting it politely. I don't readily agree with it. The part, at least I saw from CNN when I was reading on it, the part I really agree with was focusing more on mental health, like I said. And I think they could look at how we're raising kids from the home on up into the schools, how we're teaching them and everything else. I think that's a big deficit area across the board. But when you get into reporting mental health issues, or doctors reporting back to the government on mental health, when it's not explicitly a matter of they feel you're a danger to yourself or others, like I think the system is now. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't know how they're going to go about that yet, because the executive order hasn't come out. Just the talking point, trying to garner support. But still, when you get into stuff like that, what winds up happening is, like I said, you discourage people who might need the help from getting it. Also, it's worth noting, it seems like every time they go down this route of, we need tighter gun regulations, they claim the majority of Americans are for it, but it's always amazing. And they pull out these polls showing the support, but never bothered to show the skew of the, out of the skew of the statistics, which is saying out of how many polled, how many identify with this, Republican, Democrat, so on and so forth. But like I'm beating around the bush saying, every time they go down this route and say, we need tighter gun regulations, it seems like the next election, that party kind of loses a bit. We saw that in 2014 after the push in 2013. And like I said, it's just every time they go down this route, it seems to end badly for mainly the Democrats, because they're the ones pushing for it. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Agree, disagree, that's your opinion. You have a right to your opinion. You have a right to voice your opinion. Same as me, same as everyone. That's what the First Amendment's for. But yeah, that's like I said, just my thoughts. Take it, leave it, whatever.